Call the meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge. On behalf of the Board of Education, I'd like to welcome you to our meeting this evening. We will begin with a budget workshop. Before we would proceed, we would ask that you please make sure that your cell phones are silent or turned to off so that we can proceed without interruption. This evening, our business administrator, Mike Bastian, will present on the budget. We ask that you please keep your questions until he gets to the end of each section. We ask that you will remain seated. He will have you ask the question and then he will just reiterate it so that it can be heard over the speakers. And we ask that you just be courteous to everyone else that would like to have the opportunity to speak and to our presenter this evening. Mike, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Tori. First, I wanted to remind the board and those in attendance of the purpose of a budget workshop. This is our first of two this year, as we do each year. Not every district does budget workshops, and if they do them, they do not necessarily do them the way that we do. We certainly see this as an opportunity to share with the community and give the community an opportunity to ask some questions about the draft budget, and we take that into consideration as we proceed with our budget process and heading towards draft 2. So again, the primary purpose really is to educate the Board of Education to be able to make informed budgetary decisions that they have as a responsibility. Again, also provides opportunity for community to ask clarifying questions. As Tori said, please leave your questions to the end of each section. And as I get to an end of section, I'll ask if there's any questions about what's just been covered. Please limit questions to the budget draft being presented tonight, along with the other information I present this evening, and realize that additional information will come as we work through the budget process. This is one of 3 different drafts, 2 drafts and a final budget, and information comes in every day in related to the budget decisioning. So realize that this is a work in progress for sure. So our agenda for the presentation tonight, first is to talk about projected expenses, so the expense side of the budget. I'll be reviewing the expense drivers for the 25-26 budget as we see them. Then I will go through the draft budget number 1 by function, and I will be highlighting aspects of the budget, functions of the budget that are increasing by 5% or more from year to year expense, and I'll highlight those and give a little explanation. Also be reviewing recent budgeting trends and realities here at Honeoye Central over the last 2 to 3 years. And then I will shift towards projected revenues. A quick review of the executive aid run we received back in January, an update from Albany from Mrs. Fluke, who has just spent a couple days there in the state's capital. A quick review of tax cap calculation, and all of this again to build what the revenue side of the budget is. And then once we've gotten to that point, we will see where the gap is from the expense side to the current projected revenue side. And then we move forward towards draft 2 and doing a lot of important work between that draft 1 and draft 2. All right, so I'm going to jump right in to the projected expenses. And I'm going to give away the ending. I'm going to lead with the result here, the conclusion. Draft 1 of the expense budget is a $21,565,371 expense budget. That is up $1,833,289 over the 24-25 current year expense budget. That is a 9.3% increase over the 24-25 expense budget. And that is a significant increase. That is a significant increase. Why? How did we get there? First, we have some staffing changes that I wanted to quickly overview. We have 1.3 teacher retirements that we are not filling. We're able to cover those in other ways. We have 1 teacher retirement that we currently are filling in special education. We have 1 new teaching assistant slated for special education at this point, a new bus driver, a new bus monitor, And we have one clerical retirement that at this point we are looking to fill as well. So these are the staffing considerations that are baked into draft one. Digging a little deeper into what the drivers are or why this is our budget figure for the year. Health insurance premiums. We are part of the FLASP, Wayne Finger Lakes Consortium for Healthcare for school districts. And our two plans have gone up 10 and 12% for next year for 25, 26. So I'm taking that middle ground between our two plans as 11% and seeing 11% increase on the expense side from year to year. That equates to $286,000. This is a contractual obligation. We don't get to dictate what the costs of the premiums are for health insurance. As a member of the consortium, we pay what those rates are as set by Blue Cross Blue Shield and the consortium itself. Special education program is seeing a very significant increase, 30%, $854,262 over current year budget. We'll get into that a little bit more later, but suffice to say that we have excellent special education programs. We brought in some students that were new to us after the budgeting for 24, 25 last winter and spring. So we had some move-in students, some high-cost students that we have in out-of-district placements. And again, we do have robust services outside of the district where we are sending some students for their IEP needs, and we are seeing significant increases in special education. I should also say at this point, we made the decision, and you may hear this a little bit again later, we've made the decision to account and double book, if you will, some special education teacher salaries that in the past we have always relied upon 611 and 619 IDEA grants just because of some of the news coming out of Washington and not exactly sure how the Department of Education or some of the federal grants may end up. Right now, I'm feeling that it is prudent to make sure that these salaries are not just earmarked outside of the general fund in those IDA grants, but that we are going to be able to support those salaries if Washington were to not come through with some of that money, and if the state were to not back up, if Washington were to not come through with that money. Okay, so some special ed salaries that were not in the 24-25 budget because they were tagged specifically to those grants, we are having them as a contingency just in case at this point. We're going to continue to monitor that as we move forward. And if we feel confident that we can remove that, we certainly would. Okay. Transportation budget. Computer technology, we're seeing an increase of $113,000. This is really equipment-based, some BoE services, but really comes down to maintaining our robust device replacement schedule, making sure that we don't get behind with that, and then also addressing some other needs within the district as technology grows with age, grows old, and needs to be replaced so that we can have the best instructional technology for our students and for our staff. Transportation sees a 9% increase, $113,000 again. This is the differential of the two buses we are looking to purchase for 25, 26 being $40,000 more expensive than the three minibuses we purchased last year. So that can happen. The expense cost for our buses can change from year to year based on the configuration, the size, and the cost of each of those buses. We also have in there the additional driver and the additional bus monitor that I mentioned a little bit before. So that's $113,000 in the transportation budget of new expense. ERS retirement costs. ERS, that represents our support staff, our HSSA staff, our civil service staff, and their retirement system, the NYSLRS, New York State Employees Retirement System. The district pays a portion of their salary value to New York State as part of their retirement future. Each year that we have contractual obligations where there are increases in those salaries, our ERS obligation increases with the amount of salary. It's a dollar figure calculation. And this year's figure for the district responsibility, the district contribution is going up from 15.2 to 16.5. So we are seeing an increase. Again, this is a stipulation, an obligation we must follow. It's not a choice. Staff development budget. we're seeing a 50%, 57% increase. That's about $30,000. And you'll be hearing a lot about the science of reading and making sure that our staff at elementary and middle school have the best professional development and the best materials over the next couple of years to meet the expectations of the Science of Reading initiative to maximize our students' reading acumen and ability. Again, continuing with the drivers, 9% increase for business office costs. It's about $43,000. This just came from BoCES. Our BoCES services, we are told what those costs will be. We just got that information on Monday. It'd be great if we got it a month or two ago, but the information came on Monday, and I immediately questioned one of the central business office service costs from BoCES, and I've put an email out asking, how did they get to this figure? And I do not have an answer yet, but I will continue to seek that. Operation of plant. This is our physical plant, maintenance, Mike Kessler's department. While it's a 5% increase, it is $51,000. And I've got this in here, and I want to make a point of, again, just finding out very recently that effective January 1st, we were going to see, I found this out after January 1st, we're going to see a 30% increase in our kilowatt per hour rates for electricity and a 25% increase for natural gas. And rest assured, our January bill for the electricity, both at home, right, and here at school, went up 30%. And it just wasn't because it was a cold month. They really did raise those rates. We are a part of a cooperative bid through BoCES for our electricity and our natural gas, and that is the best price we would have been able to get for the life of this contract. But that's what the market is doing. And so we're going to be pretty tight in electricity by the end of this year. So looking to have some contingency for that for next year to not be in the same position. 6% for Social Study FICA, Social Security and FICA tax increase. As there is more salary increase, we have to therefore pay the difference, the 7.65% for the Social Study FICA. Social Security FICA, that is the district obligation, that's $34,000. I already mentioned the gas and electric, and then another one I'll mention is OC-Ed. So occupational education is the CTE programs, the career, the trades, the tech readiness that many of our juniors and seniors go over to Newark or the Career Center for. BoCES, again, notified us that the cost per student is going up 12%. I will say this to say, while our overall cost for that line is not going to show a 12% increase, it's because we have 4 fewer students attending. If there wasn't a 12% increase, we would have seen a savings for not sending 4 students of about $50,000. But because the increase is there, we're not seeing a savings from sending fewer students. Again, cost factors and drivers that in this case are out of our control to give our students the programming that they need in something like the OC-Ed and the CTE at BoCES. Any questions in regard to the expense drivers from this portion of the presentation? Okay. Oh, yes, Carol. If I can hear you, I'll just restate it. So specific to expense drivers. Yep.
Makes a lot of sense, but my concern is still, these increases are built on what was budgeted, not what was actually spent. So the difference, if you look at last year, the actual amount that was spent on 906 hospital medical development represented only a 1.4% increase. And over 5 years, it was an average of 1.7%. So, you know, maybe you can speak to that. And my concern also goes with the salary increases there, as you get higher salary people retiring, they're being replaced by people who are making less, newer people. So just a discrepancy, especially hospital medical and dental has been a huge driver of surplus. That is, I know it's about the
Yes, thank you. Specific to the healthcare, healthcare is a line and is an aspect of the budget. First of all, it's an incredibly costly one, right? We're around $3 million now, just over $3 million. It is a contractual obligation. And Carol, you are correct in that this expense, this 11%, and I mentioned before you had walked in, I think, that our two plans, our major plan families from Excel's Blue Cross are going up 10% and 12%. And this is an 11% increase on last year's expense. I am also at the same time, I have also built a zero budgeted every member, every retiree, every teacher, every staff member that has healthcare, and I'm building a projection that way as well. And that will be taken into consideration as we move forward. The problem, one of the real challenges with healthcare is the exposure that the district would be creating for itself if we underestimated the potential. Any new hire that we have, I need to consider what would the ultimate exposure be for the district. So that would be a family plan for the most costly of the plans, because if I don't budget for that, if I budget for a single plan for the less expensive plan and somebody comes in and they have a family plan that they need, that's an incredible budget breaker. So we don't want to have the district exposed with that like contingency to provide for that. Again, things like having a child, going from a single to a married, going from a married with spouse to a family, there has to be the room within the budget to do that. Hearing what you have said, though, at the same time, I want you to know I'm creating an actual from the ground zero base, and I'm going to compare the two. And as we get closer into draft 2 and draft 3, if money can come off of that, then money will come off of that. But we don't want to leave ourselves exposed. And this is one of the most, the greatest pitfalls for district, that and special education. And that's what we've experienced this year with the special education. I don't want to see a repeat for that in healthcare. In terms of the teacher salaries, what you're talking about is breakage. If we have someone retire and they were making more than a newer teacher coming in, yes, breakage is a thing. But at the same time as retirees, a retired teacher leaves, there are also some contractual benefits that are one time, but they have to be accounted for. And in some cases, they are, they may even eclipse, they may equal or eclipse the breakage of that first year of a younger teacher, or maybe a less salaried teacher, if you will. Okay. Again, I'm also doing a zero based for salary for all teacher salaries and all salaries in general. So that I'm not just building on last year's and adding a percentage on it. It is actually a zero base for anything related to salary and also for healthcare. And I'm just going to be working between the two as we move forward in the project. Yes. Yes, I have a spreadsheet with every employee that has healthcare, which plan they have, how much it costs. That plan is going up 10%. That plan is going up 12%. But then my number, where does that going to fit as we get to draft 2 and we get further in the process compared to this first draft, which is 11%, the combination between the 10 and the 12 on last year's expense. Yes. We have open enrollment in May, in the month of May. Yep. But we also have hires in June and July. That's called a qualifying event, right? And so of course they get to, and if you have a child, you get married, those are all qualifying events too. So it's not just a May thing, of course. That's why we have to be able to withstand the variability of that. All right, thank you. Next, I'm going to go through, if you had an opportunity to pick up a copy of the draft 1. By function. So this is each of the categories we have for the budget. And we're going to go through this, and I'm going to highlight any function codes, any categories seeing a 5% or greater increase from expense budget from year to year. So we're on page 1. On page 1, if we look on the left-hand column to orient everybody, you'll see the account code. That's the function code. You see things like Board of Education, district clerk, district meetings. So I will attempt to call out the account code, that 4-digit number. I'll say what the description of that function is, and then I'll talk about where that percent increase comes from. All right? So the first one, which is over 5%, is 1060 district meetings. This amounts to $242 because it's a lower budgeted item. It still has a 5%, so I'm going to go over that, even though compared to others, the 242 is a lower number. This is specific to the election workers, and I was asked to make sure that we are considering minimum wage for our election workers so that we're not caught with not enough money for that as minimum wage continues to increase in New York State. So that's the purpose of that increase. $242 equates to 5.149% election workers minimum wage. Okay. We go down to 1310 business administration. This encompasses my office and the services provided to my office, in this case from BOCES. So there's a lot going on there. And the cause for that 8.7% increase, we just found out our BOCES service costs for next year. We just found those out on Monday, got into a new system to be able to see what they are. And that showed me that BOCES is charging us more. I questioned one of the charges for the central business office, and I immediately sent an email out to a couple folks, and I have not gotten an answer back. It's about a $35,000 increase on this one service that I want to know. I want to have an answer as to why that's there. But I'm showing that in draft one because that's what they're saying the cost is at this point while I track that down. Auditing. Auditing is 1320. In this case, we're primarily talking about our outside auditor, our accountant, Tom Zuber from Mengel Metzger Barr. And I am increasing this to match, to adjust to actual 24-25 expenditures. Our expenditures for auditing through Mengel Metzger Barr are higher in 24-25 than budgeted for 24-25. So again, wanting to make sure that the requisite money is there for next year to not be working in a deficit in that category. 1345 purchasing. This is a BOCES service charge. Again, as far as dollar amount, only $307, but I'm tagging it because of the 5%. It's a service charge for actually being in the electricity and the natural gas co-ops. There are a fee to be in those co-ops. Continuing down the page, if we go to 1620 operation of plant, there are quite a few individual budget lines in operation of plant that has everything to do with running this building. It is the salaries for the maintenance staff. It is for repairs and maintenance. Our utilities are in there. So this 5.317, you see it at $51,000. If you remember the slide before that talked about the electricity and natural gas increases, this really is the electricity and national gas rate increases and trying to provide what would be necessary. Of course, each season can be different. Each year can be different. We're having a cold year this year, and then we get hit with 30% rate increases on January 1st. It's creating a bit of a situation for us. So trying to not expose the district to that again next year, but obviously keeping that contingency within reason as well. Moving on to page 2, again, focusing on our 5%ers. At the top of the page, we have two somewhat related, and these are both really come down to BOCES costs and BOCES lines again. The 1670 has to do with central printing and mailing. We're talking a $76,000 budget, a $7,000 increase, and that is there specific to BOCES printing. The fact that we're sending a lot of our newsletters, our Bulldog Beat budget newsletter, and our teachers are actually sending a lot of their classroom printing now to an excellent print center at Wayne Finger Lakes BOCES. There will be savings. There should be savings in another BOCES line. Haven't calculated what that would be, but we are calculating the increase in that print cost, but this is a good thing for the district. We're cutting down. They can print things for us more cheaply than we can in our copiers in the hallways, okay? So that's the bulk of that. That $7,000, that's the bulk of that 10% increase. Central data processing, 1680, is a larger BOCES charge. It's actually several lines again. One of them would be, I would believe, the NPC, the printing that we have for our copiers would be there. So I could actually look at that to take a bit of a reduction there. And then there's also a lot of pass-through for some of our technology and overall data programs. Some of the things that we use for our systems within the district are in there from BOCES. So we're seeing a $22,000 year-to-year expense budget increase on that. That's 10%. Allocated insurance. This is based on actual expense of 24-25. The fact that the budget for last year at 118 was created in January, February, March, and April. And then July 1st comes around and our insurance provider had to redo our rates and our premiums. And so we are over $126,000, $124,000, $126,000 for 24-25 insurance. Don't want to see that happen again. Don't want to be under in that regard. So providing the additional funds there, and that equates to the 10.17% change. Continuing, 1981, BOCES administrative costs. Again, these costs are given to us. This has to do with capital improvements that BOCES is doing and what each district of the 25 component districts is required to pay their portion or their percent of some of these BOCES costs, administrative costs. Ours is going up by $5,300, so that's 5%. Again, that we just found that out. Any of these BOCES lines, we're just finding out 2 days ago. 2010, curriculum and development. And then 2070, a couple lines further down, I'm going to say the same thing twice. We are really excited, not to speak for Mrs. Esquino and Mrs. Fluke and Ms. Devanzo, but the idea of the science of reading and bringing that to Honeoye Central, providing the curriculum development, the staff development for our teachers that's necessary, and providing the materials that are necessary to make sure that we are following science of reading expectations. So in the 2010 line, specifically, there are material costs in there that we didn't have in the past because this is new to us. So we see that 11.9, 12% increase. This is for science of reading materials. And then the 2070, the in-service training or instruction, we have $25,000 specifically earmarked for science of reading training that we're getting from leaders, national leaders in this movement, the Reading League, and that explains the 56% increase in that line. Continue to move downward, then down the page, the 2250, I've already mentioned special education, and there's that number we mentioned before, $854,262 for special education. This is out of district placements, some students that moved in after the 24-25 budget was created. And again, it's an excellent reminder in the importance of contingency and the reality that in a few areas of the budget for the 24-25 budget, we trimmed too deeply. We didn't leave enough for one of the, again, most volatile lines of a budget, which is special education. And we are in the red for special education, especially the tuitions for private placements for special education this year to the tune of about $300,000, okay? So also, I already mentioned the IDEA salaries, just to be extra careful, they are in here as well. That's about another $200,000 to $300,000. So that very quickly explains the special education getting the best that we can for those students at 30% increase year to year. Occupational education, though it's below 5%, I already mentioned that 12% increase per student. Again, if we could have taken the benefit of having 4 fewer students, that would have been a savings for us, but instead, we're paying a little bit more to have 4 fewer students go than last year. Next line is teaching special schools. This is specific to general education summer school at the high school level. This is not our elementary summer school. This is students who may need to take a Regents class again or a credit-bearing class at high school. So that's what that summer school is. The difference specifically for this year is making sure that we've included, as we've talked about in past years, at this point, we've included $10,000 for driver's ed. And that increase there is so that a few of our students could receive driver's ed, and that will be run through BOCES. Remember, any of these educational programs run through BOCES, there is a return on aid in the next year. So that's about 42% for us. We will not see that in the same calendar year, the same fiscal year. It comes 1 year later. That's always important to remember with BOCES. Okay, moving on to page 3. Thank you for bearing with me. Computer assisted instruction, 2630 code, instructional technology. Really computer technology replacement, that schedule device I already mentioned, and then some other items that are bigger or infrastructure related. But this is a year-to-year increase specific to the equipment line in instructional technology cluster of codes. That's 16.7%. Next line is guidance regular school. I want to be transparent about what this is here. As with everything, testing, AP testing, college classes, new opportunities for our senior high school students to take credit-bearing college courses. And seeing this as an equity piece, that the district is providing this for our students as they move forward, more robustly than we have in the past. And that was a $10,000 increase in the counseling line. That's where we have that. Okay, so that's the 10%. Go down to psychological service, 2820. Psychological services are school psychologists and the testing that they do, whether it be for special education, CSE meetings or other. This is looking to have the possibility of some summer work days for our school psychologists. And also they're looking to update some testing protocols, some testing programs that they have. And that's the increase there, $12,000. 2825. Just so you know, there's a blank there. I don't know why the system won't print that. I will tell you that that is school social worker, regular school. So if you want to write in school social worker for 2825, though that is not a trigger for over 5%. We will go down to 5510 and 5530. That is transportation divided in half. The first half of transportation is the driving the kids. The second half, the 5530, is the garage building, taking care of the buses, our mechanics, et cetera. So in that first part, I've already alluded to this. The buses we're buying this year are $40,000 more than the buses we bought last year. And I said we added, in our first draft, we've added a driver and a monitor. So those costs add up to the $113,000 or 9%. And then for the garage, this is really a function of the utilities, the gas and electric for the bus garage, as we've already talked about what's happened with those rates. And then the 90-10 state retirement, this is that ERS that I mentioned before for our civil service workers, our support staff workers. As there is more salary from year to year for them, our ERS employer contribution burden increases, and the rate at which we are paying, the employer contribution has gone up from 15.2 to 16.5, as I mentioned, for 25-26. So that is that increase. Social Security is similar. That's our taxes. So as there is more salary to be paid by a district, that number is going to increase. It's just taking that 7.65, figuring against the salaries, and that's the number there. We see a decrease of 16% in workers' compensation. I removed a contingency there, and our workers' comp cost within the consortium plan decreased. So we're seeing a decrease there. And almost there, folks. Thanks for bearing with. There is that medical. And as I said at the top of the page, a dollar change of $286,000. I took the 11%, but I'll already have made an adjustment, and we see that down, Carol, from 11 to the 9.7, and I will be continuing to look at that and comparing it to the actual base up calculations and see what seems to be right-sized for that, okay? Also on this page, we've got 10% transfer to other funds. This is for our Medicaid payment. This is the district portion of our special education extended summer year, and every year we take a transfer for the district portion of what we have to pay. And because it's so variable and not wanting to get caught with anything, short prepared for special education, just looking to increase $5,000 there. So again, at the bottom of the page, you see the percent change in the expense budget at the 9.3%, as we have gone through and already said at the beginning of the presentation. So that is our review through the draft budget. Were there any questions in terms of any of the lines that we've gone over since the earlier questions about healthcare? Yes. Yep. Other areas of the budget that have not been fully expended? Not for that. And unfortunately, Kelly, there is no special education reserve fund. Districts, superintendents, and associations have been lobbying with the state to ask for a special ed reserve fund. If you ask business officials, if you ask superintendents, that would be like the #1 reserve fund that really would be helpful because it's such a volatile situation, right? Yeah, but there is no such thing at this point. All right. All right, I'm going to continue on.
Mike, can you just tell us what 9788 is and 9950 so we can fill it in? Because
Oh, did I miss another one? I thought I was trying to give you those.
9788.
That is lease and lease interests. Lease and lease interests.
then 9950.
is transfer to capital, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah, I can't get the system to print those. Transfer to capital for the capital outlay. So that's the $100,000 that we bring in every year for a capital outlay project.
And then I have one more.
Yep,
1310 business administration.
Yep.
You said it was one service that increased 35%. What was that service?
that's unclear. So they're giving me
Okay.
the total for the CBO, the Central Business Office, went up by $35,000 without an explanation. So I'm seeking that explanation.
Thank you.
Okay,
So can I just jump in here 1 second? The finance committee met this morning with Mike and the new business administrator and superintendent. And we did do a deeper dive on these. But as Mike said a couple of times, you know, some of these this information is still pretty high level. It's coming in. We don't have details. It's changing by the minute. So it is truly a first draft of everything. But, you know, the finance committee, the three of us sitting on this side of the room, you know, we did get to hear a little bit more specific breakdown of some of these higher up numbers here.
thank you. And that absolutely is the role of that committee and very appropriate as they seek to understand and then inform and be able to support with the rest of the board. So that's really important. We appreciate that. Next slide. Here's where we're going to start to see some storytelling explanation and looking at some recent budgeting trends at Honey Ice Central. On the left, I want to key you into expense budget to expense budget. So think about the January, February, March, we get to April, the board adopts in April, voters vote in May. That's the expense budget for the next calendar year, okay? So I want you to see what's happened with expense budgets on the left side, but also what's happened with actual expense. We don't know actual expense until the end of the year, till we get to June 30th. And honestly, not until August or September, really, when the audits are all done and all the journal entries are happened. You hear me joke every year that June 30th is the longest day of the year for school business offices because it really takes all summer for the auditing, okay? So if you look on the right side, you see from the year prior to the year indicated what the actual increases for expenses in that year were. Compare that to the left side with the budget. So the difference between, if we go to the left side, expense side, the expense budget for 23 was a 1.73% increase from the prior year's expense budget. But if you look at the actual increase, what we actually spent in that school year, it's 2.42%. Then you go back to the expense side for 23-24, that budget went up from the 22-23 budget only 1.48%. The actual expenses went up 8.89%. Look at 24-25, the budget went up for this current year, up 2.98%, but we are projecting by the end of the year that the expenses year to year will have gone up 9.46. I mentioned the special ed increases, mentioned some other things going on in the maintenance department with the electricity and gas rates, et cetera. And here we are with a 9.3% budget to budget increase projected for draft one. Just really want you to see, we're talking about a 3 times difference between the budget to budget expense and what we actually expensed. What is going on? What is the story here? That's what we talk about next. Expense budgets have not increased on pace with actual cost increases. Continued trimming of contingency, which has been a goal and a driver for us, have kept cost increases from fully hitting the budget over the last few years. The 25-26 expense budget increases will be actual, not conservative. Is there still room between draft 1 to 2 and 3? Yes, there is. But at the end of the day, the aggressive contingency trimming we've done the last couple of years, which we've been doing and has been something that we've, been committed to, we can't continue to do that at the same pace. We're not going to close the gap that we have for the 25-26 budget by trimming contingency. We cut it way too close to the bone this year, and we're seeing the impact of that. 24-25 is a case study in lack of budget contingency in several areas of our operation, especially special education and also the maintenance and facilities department. Reducing a budget gap with contingency trimming is no longer sustainable. We've done a lot of that the last couple of years, and we will continue to actual versus projected expenses, but we are not going to close this gap that way. Next slide. Since this slide is related, can I finish the thought cycle and then we'll take that? Other expense side realities. The current projection for this year from the CBO, as of last week, is the anticipation that the district's going to expend 98% of the 24-25 expenditure budget. That is really close to 100. We can't overexpense the budget. So another emergency, another move-in for a special education high-cost student, something like that, we are very close to our ceiling. We have not been this close. We have not seen this for as long as I've been here. That is cutting it very, very close. So again, we talk about that contingency trimming in the last 2 or 3 years, then the special ed costs, the BoE service costs coming in higher than budgeted for 24-25. I've hesitated in past years to talk about what the fund balance projection is for the end of the year, but it's part of the story this year to say that the CBO is currently projecting us with a fund balance at the end of the year of $200,000. Far different from what we've seen the last few years. Again, contributed to that ongoing contingency trimming, but realizing there have to be limits to that. We currently separately have a $750,000 emergency project for our auditorium air conditioning. It is the one large space we have where we can air condition our students and our staff if it's really hot in June or September, or when we have our graduation and we have other things in that auditorium. And so the district has committed, the board is committed to repairing that this spring. Parts are ordered, equipment is ordered, and we have moved forward with a board approval of that, and we are doing that. It's going to be about $750,000. If we have fund balance at the end of the year of $200,000, if we're spending 98% of our expense budget, right now that is coming out of our 4% unassigned budget, 4% unassigned fund balance. This is not a neighborhood we want to continue to live in. And again, that tight budgeting for this year and projected to expend that 98%, you throw in the emergency project on that. We want to be in a position, you'd want to be in a position to replenish that unassigned fund balance. And with a fund balance projection right now of $200,000, that is not likely. So we're getting hit from a lot of different areas, a lot of different directions this year, kind of a perfect storm situation, if you will. And we want to make sure that next year's budget takes all of that into consideration and doesn't set the district up for a continuation of that. Carol, question? Yeah. Yeah, the actual expense increased from the prior year's actual increase, from the prior year's actual expenses. Those numbers represent what was spent in 22-23, what was spent in 23-24 actually expended went up that much, whereas you see on the opposing side, the budgets did not go up that much. Again, this is a testimony of that commitment over the last 3 to 4 years to take into consideration the contingency and trying to reduce the end of year fund balance, the end of year excess we saw last year. The number that we put into reserves was significantly less than the prior 2 years. And what we're seeing this year is certainly less and a little bit too robustly. This is the expense side. So the surplus speaks more to revenue and fund balance. I'm just focusing on the expense side here and the reality of the actual expenses at the end of June 30th each year, coming in year to year increases as you see on the right. Still, the expenses, the actual expenses for each of those years did increase those amounts from the prior year. The budget more than covered it. The point I'm making here is you can see when the actual increases The actual cost increases are on a much greater slope, a much richer slope or trajectory of what we are budgeting for, asking for, if you will, receiving from other sources, that we have internalized those and we have taken care of those in-house, partially through this, through the concept of the contingency trimming. We can't continue at that pace because now we have a 9.3% increase in the budget to prevent this actual discrepancy when we get to the end of next year. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep. Every year the board updates the reserve plan. We do look at the reserve plan. We look at what aspects of the reserves could be used to support or balance a budget, because there are limits to that as well, but absolutely. Yes.
Some of the reserves are like thinking about my home budget, my family.
Yep.
home budget, Something else like my well home.
Sure. Yep. Yep. Well, so not for emergencies. No, not really. Where they can be used and where we have traditionally used them is to help balance a budget in the springtime. Okay. We have some specific reserves that can only be used for specific purposes. Okay. I can't bring money from the ERS retirement reserve to help pay for special education, right? I can only bring that in to pay for the ERS. I can only bring from workers' comp reserve to pay for the workers' comp. If workers' comp is only $80,000 for next year, I can't bring in $300,000 from workers' comp, right? So it has to be a one-to-one correlation for purpose. Wouldn't it be nice if we could have gone into a repair reserve that had $750,000 or the capital reserve for the air conditioning, but you can't use the capital reserve that way, and our repair reserve has $2,000? Because the repair reserve really isn't as useful as the name sounds, okay? It really is. So to spend them down aggressively and continually, we have used reserves the last 5 years for these specific targeted purposes. But if you spend it, you don't have it down the road to spend. So we have seen an erosion of our fund balance in terms of reserves over the last couple of years. And we continue to see that. Yes. Yeah. Yep. Yes. I just didn't want you to think of it as an emergency fund to tap into any time in the middle of the year. Yeah. Yes. Thank you. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So we're, yep. Yet we're still operating, we are operating from that pull from the emergency to meet the need of the initial budget. As the contingency, as we're cutting closer to the bone, as the contingency is gone, every reliance upon pulling from the reserves, we just need to realize we're doing that. And this year, when we don't have the money to put them back into the reserves, we have definitely depleted those reserves and fund balance. We're not going to have the $1 million of surplus at the end of this year to replace those. We won't see that. If we do have the 208, or if we have more than the 208 in fund balance, we already said we're going to see that go back to the 4% unassigned, because that's a security. That's something we need to have. Okay, so we're not going to see any of the money taken from ERS, taken from workers' comp, taken from EBLAR for this year. We're not going to see those refilled. And yes, we can look at moving from reserves to reserve with some restrictions. There are rules, regulations from the controller's office for each of the reserves. We work with Tom Zuber, our auditor, in informing what we can and should do, what our funding amounts in each of those reserves should be. And we have heeded his professional opinion and also the regulations in terms of how many years of X, Y, and Z we have an ability to pay from those reserves. There are districts that are way overfunded in some of their reserves. We are funded to the requirements, the expectations of the OSC and our auditor. We are not grossly overfunded in our reserves. So that we should take as a point of pride. But we are also dwindling them as we move forward, the more we rely upon them to balance budgets. All right, I want to wrap up, but yeah.
On the last item there, on the emergency plan, is that taking into account any of the possibility that that price is going to be affected by this tariff thing?
I wish I could read the future. I wish I could do the tea leaves thing when it comes to electricity rates, et cetera, and et cetera. I'll tell you what, we had an initial thought that we were going to be at about $550,000, if you remember. Actually, the quote was 500,000. And I asked the board to approve 550. It became 700,000, and I asked the board to approve 750. There really isn't. I think all the 750 is going to be used. I don't think we're going to have any extra there. And there could be a potential, depending on what happens internationally with tariffs or such. But we have already ordered that equipment. We've ordered that equipment. It's been in production. So I think we should be pretty good for this project, for the emergency project. Thanks, Jim. Projected revenues, the other half of the picture, of course, that we need to talk about is projected revenues. Some of this is review. Certainly the executive aid run we talked about in January. New York State is providing 2% increases for all districts for foundation aid, at least 2%. We are in that category. But the reality is some of our other aids, our expense-based aids, are not coming in as robust. So our overall increase is not 2%. It is 1.6. It's about $132,000. So right now, the adjusted, cleansed, if you will, Honeyoy version, of the executive aid run is $8,377,359. So that's the piece we're looking at from the state. This could change with the legislative budget. I don't necessarily think that the legislature is going to be pointing out more this year, more of an opinion than anything else. But that's where it is from the governor, and we wait for the month of March to see what the legislature does. Saying that, Ms. Fluke just came back from Albany, and she was going to share a couple thoughts from what she experienced there.
Thank you. First, thank you, Mike, for putting this together. I want to say that in talking to my superintendent colleagues, there are many districts that do not do this. So I wanted to say thank you for putting this draft together. Thank you for the questions that are coming in, because we certainly will take those into considerations as we, with the finance committee, the leadership team, with Mike, Derek, our upcoming business official, to look at how we are going to close this gap. So we hope to have we have a lot of work to do in the next 2 weeks. So thank you for that. So as you may have heard, there have been a lot of talk about the federal government eliminating funds. Good news, however, the state is currently reporting that we will be getting those federal funds this year. So we are budgeting, as you could see, that we are budgeting as if we are not getting those funds. So I'm hopeful that that would be an area that you will see positively impact our budget. So as soon as we have more information there, we will update you as soon as we have that. So know that that's coming. I also wanted to say, however, if they do not give us those funds, that the state has already said they will not be able to cover that loss. Okay, so again, we're hoping that we're able to get those funds. The second thing, the 2% increase in foundation aid is another hot topic. We are hearing that the legislature will probably make some adjustments to that, but note that's because they feel that New York City is being underfunded. So that's the reason for that. However, those adjustments could positively impact us as well. At this point, we are moving forward with the 2% increase, but again, hoping that those adjustments could potentially impact us. Okay, and then lastly, regarding the budget and my time in Albany, conversations with members of the legislature and members of our Wayne Finger Lakes group around the region. We're hearing that it's not likely that the state is going to meet that April 1st budget deadline. So we have to prepare to possibly push that April date out. We'll get that information to you as well, but that is something that they've mentioned they may not be able to adhere to that April 1st deadline, which means we will have to adjust our April calendar. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will try to wrap this up quickly. I know we've got a lot of presentations tonight. We've got kids in the house, so move off of the boring old guy talking about money and get to some of that exciting stuff. But I do want to wrap up and give this the respect that it deserves. Tax cap calculation, talked about this in February, so I'm not going to rehash all of that. But just to bring it up now, as we build towards the revenue versus expense gap, the board will remember that we talked about this year's levy. Our calculation sets our levy limit at 10,913,881 over last year's levy actual taken levy of 10,326,247. That's a allowable levy increase over last year's levy of $587,000 or 5.69%. Okay, so that number now we can bring into look at the two sides of the draft. So state aid at 8,377,359. The levy at the limit, if we go out the limit, 10,913,881. Other or miscellaneous revenue, things like student admissions, rent, especially from the town, interest on our interest-bearing accounts, refunds from BOCES. Interest is coming down, so this number came down from last year appropriately. We don't want to overestimate our revenues. We have a current draft one revenue of 19,941,240. Subtract that from the expense draft one budget of 21,565. Okay, assuming again, at the levy limit, our revenue being 19,941,240, that gives us a gap of $1,624,000. That is our expense to revenue gap with draft one. Okay, so that is what we are working towards closing over the next month. Next steps, review and prioritize all new costs for 25-26, student program costs, staffing costs, prioritizing, reviewing all expenses and all program across the district, continuing monitoring of the New York State aid picture, a draft 2 for the board, and budget process update. If we hear anything from Albany, from the federal government, elsewhere, we will share that at Board of Education Budget Workshop 2, back here, same time, same place, in 2 weeks on March 19th. And again, just putting a plug out there, realizing budget supplemental information is available after the board adopts in April, whether that is the 9th or the 23rd or a different date. It can't be after the 23rd. We cannot be after the 23rd, but we will need to see what the timeline is expecting from Albany in terms of, we already heard from Ms. Fluke, not an on-time budget. So what's it going to be? We experienced the same thing last year. I think it was the 16th or 17th that we got it of April last year, which forced us to push to our second option for adoption last year. Thank you very much for the time. Thank you for your attendance and the questions, and we'll continue to keep you posted as we move forward. Thank you, Ms. Fluke.
Okay, just as a reminder, I'd like to let you know that this meeting is being recorded. We would also like to let you know that if you ever have questions or concerns, that the board strongly encourages you to utilize the Honeoye Central School chain of contact. This will ensure that topics of importance to you are directed to the appropriate person and can be looked into in a timely and efficient manner. Again, just please make sure your phones are turned to silent or off, since we've had some people come in since we began. We will move on to public expression. Jen, do we have anybody? Okay. This evening, we will have 2 speakers. Public expression will not exceed 30 minutes. Each speaker has no more than 5 minutes and will be given a 1-minute notice if needed. Megan, you have your paper? Megan will hold up a yellow sheet of paper just so that we don't have to interrupt you at the 1-minute mark. Once you are called to the podium, please utilize the microphone and state your full name and address. Please know that personal comments about or directed at a student or students, specific school personnel, a member or members of the Board of Education, or a community member or members are inappropriate and will not be tolerated. Doing so will terminate any remaining time that you have left to speak. We encourage communication and value input from Honeoye Central stakeholders. However, we will not respond at this time. Items brought to the attention of the board may be taken under consideration for future response or inquiry. Thank you for your interest in speaking this evening.
Make sure the mic's okay. Hold on. Thank you.
Yeah, I didn't need a microphone. Hi, my name's Jennifer DeSalt. I supposed to give my address or something. I live in Hemlock. I just had a couple questions. I know you can't answer them, but I'm hoping that you all will think about them and possibly give answers to the community at a future date. My questions are about the hiring and interview process for athletic coaches. I guess my number one question would be, I know with administrators, Parent Square sent out who, as a stakeholder, would like to take part in, the hiring committee or what other processes there might be. I just think it would be great if we could do that for athletic coaches, since so many people are very passionate about that. So there was that question. And then as well, when is there preference given to current coaches over coaches, from outside other schools, other communities? Are we giving preference to people that we already have here that, are doing a good job already? Is there the salary of coaches, is that based on experience or is that a contract amount? And then if, like, everyone on the hiring and interview committee that has been established can't be there for an interview, is that interview rescheduled? I just, my questions is I just feel like I saw all the appointments of the athletic coaches on the agenda for tonight and I went, wow, why didn't we know about that? So those are my questions and that's it.
Thank you.
Yep.
My wife will tell you I'm a loudmouth, so I probably don't need the mic. But I'm Sean Dussault, same address as my wife, where she had specific questions towards the hiring of the athletic. I more or less just wanted to come up and give a comment tonight. Now I understand, especially with what I just sat through, there's a lot more important things than picking a high school coach going on at the school right now. But one thing, and kind of speaking for myself, I know how important academics and everything that comes with academics is. But for someone like myself in school, sports was the reason I did what I did in my academics. And it wasn't so much the fact of fear of I was going to get pulled off the sports team. It was those things that the coaches taught me when I was on those sports programs that then correlated over to the academics and continued on to my adulthood. I understand that during the process of hiring somebody that with what I've seen tonight, all you members of the board are extremely busy. There's a lot going on and I understand various tasks get delegated. What I just want to make sure is that everybody who is certifying those coaches are taking those things into consideration. Not just what their certifications are, not just how many athletic events they've won in the past, not how well they can coach a team, but more importantly, that coaching event correlates off the field into life. Because if all we're concerned about is who has the highest record and who wins the most, then we're doing a complete disservice to our kids. It's what you learn through those sports and through those lessons and lessons that I learned that then correlate into life, like the sportsmanship, the camaraderie, the hard work, the dedication to a team, the dedication to that athlete that's standing there next to you. Those are the things that I want to make sure happen. My daughter is not in high school yet. She will be next year. So I'm here proactively, wanting to talk on behalf of that. What I can tell you is the coaching that I've seen up to this point has been nothing but amazing. And in the past couple of years, I don't think you'll talk to a single parent that is astonished what they've managed to do on the field. And I say directly correlated because of the coaches they had. What I want to make sure is that that continues on through the remainder of their high school career. And it's not just what we saw on the field and the records that they had, it's what we saw during those losses. Because let's face it, anybody that's played sports in here will tell you, we learn more from our losses than we do from our victories. It wasn't the heads hanging, it wasn't the excuses, this is why we lost, it was this rep, it was, no. It was, let's pick our heads up, we're gonna work harder this week in practice, when we see them again on the field, we're gonna be that much better. That's what stuck out to me as a parent. And that was a direct correlation of what, yes, some of the parents teach them, but importantly, what the coaches taught them, what the coaches conveyed to them. That to be humble in victory and to learn from your losses to continue on. So I just want to make sure as a parent that going forward, the coach that my daughter is going to have on high school varsity soccer is the right coach. And I just would ask that that is taken into consideration when all of you decide your decision to certify who you certify. And again, thank you for your time tonight. Thank you for the presentation and all that you do. And thank you.
Thank you.
If we do sneak out, God excuse us because we do have a teenage daughter. I'm kind of concerned about the job.
Could I ask that one of you at least leave a phone number or an email with our district? Okay, thank you. All right. We will now move on to kudos. Oh, Jerry, go ahead.
Speaking of coaching, okay, a lot of my kudos are about sports tonight, okay? And this is a testament to the coaches of all these teams because we have a lot to be proud of. Indoor track, I believe, won the 4x200. They're sectional champs. Nice job done. Henry Sherman and Dan Gowell qualified for state indoor track in the weight throw. And then Henry, as he usually does, and he's a junior, by the way, he placed third in a state qualifier and was invited to nationals. And I believe Honeoye, he's only the second Honeoye student to qualify for states. So that's quite a big accomplishment. And again, he's only a junior. We've yet to see what he's going to do. Great job. And again, that goes to coaching, absolutely. Both bowling teams qualified for sectionals. Cheerleaders finished 4th out of 16 teams in sectionals, and they won what they called the Hit Zero Award, which means they didn't make any mistakes. And I'm a cheerleading dad, and I know that's hard to do. So congratulations to the cheerleaders. And by the way, I saw cheerleaders at our last 2 basketball games, something I haven't seen in a long time. Congratulations to the cheerleaders for doing that. It was wonderful to see. And Finney tried to outshout us. It didn't work. Not at all. Boys basketball, we're seated first in Division C3 with a 19-1 record. They lost their first game and then didn't lose again. And then in sectionals, they've won 2 more. So they're in the sectional finals this Friday at the Blue Cross Arena. And I know I'm going to be there. Coach Rob Delasante was C3 Coach of the Year. Congratulations to him, because I know he's put in a ton of work over the years, and he's done a great job. Gee, that's all my sports, but I just wanted to give a kudo to the town of Richmond and the school district. The school's exercise room is going to be open to the community starting next Tuesday. And that's a big kudo to Terry Downs, who's the new town's rec director, for getting this going and that. And to tell you the truth, I'm rehabbing from a total knee, and I'm going to be there next Tuesday to see what they've got, because I don't like to go to Canandaigua to do a rehab. It's so much easier here. So again, a big kudo to the town and the school district for getting that done.
Go ahead, Cindy.
Oh, thank you. Just want to remind everybody that March is Music in Our Schools Month. We have a concert coming up that got moved to Saturday, the Sheets and Sweets concert's always a fun concert to come out and watch the talented singers in our choir program. There'll be concerts in the middle of the month from the elementary and middle school band. And then wrapping up on March 20th, the 45th Annual Scholarship Concert. This is a fundraiser for the band boosters, which we pay our seniors a scholarship for their time and their commitment to the music program here at Honeyway.
Anybody else? Jim, go ahead.
Yeah, I've got a kudo for, it's for Megan and Tori, that I just want to thank them and just say what a wonderful job they're doing and how much time they actually put in to doing it all and how hard it is. Been there and done that, so I know that they are putting a lot of time in, and I thank them, and I think they're doing a great job, so.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. The only comment I have is piggyback off of Jerry because he always takes everything. Was everyone at the game, at the last two games for the boys basketball? It's great to see our community. I had a gentleman sit in front of me when we were all in Bloomfield on Monday night, and he's like, this is the first basketball game I've been to in years. But because it was posted, he knew about it and wanted to go. And he said he lives by himself, and it was just a great activity for him to get out and see people he hasn't seen. And it was just a great atmosphere. Even though I think we took up about 2/3 of the space there. There's only one small section of the other school, but it's just great that we all come together and support other teams. And that's all I had.
And I just wanted to congratulate our February Elementary Students of the Month. Exceptional job to all of them and congratulations. I also, for sports, I'm blown away by Henry Sherman. I am so proud of him. Also to the basketball team, Rob Delisani was actually my neighbor growing up, so I got to shoot some hoops more often than I wanted to as a kid. But I'm so proud of him as well, seeing that he has taken something that meant so much to him as a student, as a kid, and to turn it around and give back to every single one of those kids on his team and to all of the fans and to all the parents and everywhere else we go. He has done an outstanding job. And to speak to what you said, sports takes you places in life. You learn things there that you're never going to learn anyplace else. And it's never going to leave you. It makes you a better person. And being a former Honeyway athlete myself, it had taught me many, many things. And I am very proud of our athletic department here. So congratulations again to all of our sectional competitors and winners. And next we'll move on to Board of Education Committee reports and updates. Does finance want to go again? You spoke a little earlier. Okay. And then does anybody else have anything?
I just have a quick one for the legislative committee. We kind of waited to see what happened, who was going to get elected. So it's very scary. I'm sure Natalie knows as being like in Albany, like we don't know what's going to happen. They can predict, but you don't know at the end of the year. But I'm just going to go over a couple issues, and if you guys can think of anything, like the new child nutrition, school lunches is a big topic that we talked about. Like just role of our school boards, just that everyone knows their role, that you're having other issues at other school boards. I don't feel like we're having that issue here. Other school boards are just knowing your role and following through. Trying to think of other things that we haven't talked about yet. Medicaid, healthcare are some of the bigger things. So if there's anything that you guys can think of that you want to add to our federal proposition papers, let me know. Just shoot me a quick email, and that would be great.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to bring up was last month, I didn't get a chance to report on the general meeting at 4 counties that I was supposed to go to. Unfortunately, because of some unforeseen circumstances with a couple of things with my wife and that, I didn't get a chance to go to that meeting. So I missed the meeting. So what I'm asking the board is, do you want me to reimburse the board for the price of the dinner? Because I didn't make it to that meeting.
Does everybody have thoughts? Anybody have a thought?
Did they provide you with any like paperwork or anything like that to share with us or email?
I
or
didn't get
anything?
anything from Sue, no.
Can
Like,
you email?
It's online, but
Like
it is on,
reimburse us yourself?
what's that?
Like reimburse us yourself?
Yeah, because I didn't make it. Just want to make
I
sure.
know. Couldn't make it because something came up, that's all.
No? Okay, that's fine.
Okay, thank you.
And then I will add that the facilities subcommittee had meetings, February 26th and again today. And it was just to continue working toward, the SED submission that will be done, and turned in on March 28th. I believe they said pencils will be down on this on the 21st, and then we will take a final look at everything. Things don't have to be set in stone as long as they are not code. So things like our playground will still be things we can talk about upcoming. I would also like to just point out that there are draft drawings of our playground posted in places. That is not the playground. So currently, when we get done drafting everything and the estimates and all come out, we will know how much our budget is to put toward the playground. We don't start shopping, so to speak, until we have that budget. So there's no sense in us picking anything out or having a meeting with the community at this point to like talk about maybe colors or anything like that. That's gonna happen a little bit later on, but I just wanted to point out because we've had a few questions about the playground picture that was posted, and that's not the actual playground, just so everyone's aware. Does anyone have anything else? Okie dokie. Then we will move on to the superintendent report.
Okay, thank you very much. We are hoping, however, for a spectacular playground. So please note, we do have a committee meeting coming soon. I haven't posted the date because we have to, again, as Tori said, wait for that kind of final number of what we have to utilize for that. As you can see, there's so much to be proud of. Thank you, everybody, for sharing tonight. We have a lot more to hear from. We're going to hear from our elementary student council. We're going to hear from the members of our Smart Start grant, and that's kind of a tongue twister. And we're also going to hear from Penny Hensler about our French exchange. First up, however, I'm going to turn it over to Isabella Nellis, our student board member, to kick us off.
Alrighty, so I'm gonna go ahead and get started with my slides for today, March 5th. Go ahead. So starting off with sports, even though we have touched upon it a lot, our girls basketball team ended their season after losing, unfortunately, their pre-quarterfinals. And then on top of that, the boys are currently crushing it, heading it to finals against South Seneca on Friday at 5 at Blue Cross Arena. So you all better be there. The only thing that I have about that is there was a lot of people there, and it would be great to see that in the following seasons, that same showing up of our community in other sports as well. And then for cheerleading, again, our season ended with getting 4th out of 16 teams. We did not expect that at all. We were thinking like maybe towards 10 or something. And then we had no deductions, which again, as Mr. Pastor said, means we did not do anything wrong. And we had scores higher than Canandaigua, Brighton, and Red Jacket, which are rather larger schools. Though we weren't against them, except we weren't against Red Jacket. Though we weren't against them, we still had higher scores than them from the judges. And then also we've been volunteering to cheer at the boys sectional games, which we will be there at the Blue Cross Arena at 5 on Friday. And then for track and field, we had multiple players for both girls and boys win section 5 titles. Boys got 4th overall out of 13 teams and the girls 6th out of 14, with Henry and Daniel going for state qualifiers and Henry moving on to states and nationals. And then for our bowling team, the girls sectionals got 6th out of 8 teams, where Allie Green got 7th with a score of 884. And then with our boys sectionals, where Sam Palermo got 18th with a score of 980. And then you can go to the next slide. And then for some of our clubs, we have a student council. We are preparing for our March Madness on March 12th, where we kind of have a little competitions between students and teachers and different activities. So that'll be fun. You should all come again. And then our art club this month is going to be making some stained glass. Our class of 2025 is working on our prom details, which will be in May. And then also we're trying to decide our senior gift. And then French Club, as Mrs. Sensor is gonna touch up upon, is preparing for their exchange next year with France, which I know a lot of the kids are getting excited with who they're matched up with and when they're gonna go and when their students actually come here. And then some middle school updates. The middle school art club is working on murals in the chorus room that includes our alma mater on it. And then the middle school youth to youth is wrapped up their Super Bowl fundraiser, which was for Kansas Soup, and then their carnation sales with the high school youth to youth for Valentine's Day. And then just a couple student concerns. So my first concern, this is regarding the cafeteria. Though the women in that room do a wonderful job providing all of our students with lunch. Not only like most cafeteria workers, they're doing the high school, middle school, and elementary lunch. The only small thing that I found was that students have some questions on portions. Some students, like, they're only allowed like a little like scoop of fruit, and they said that's one portion, that's all you can have. And with that, with them doing high school to elementary, 12th graders are getting like the same portions as kindergarten students. Like, say we have hot dogs. Each student gets a hot dog, one scoop of fruit, a milk, and maybe an orange. And then for teacher budgets, this is just based on, I see as a student at Honeywell, a lot of teachers use their own personal money that they get from their salary and just put it back into that classroom. So I think that, well, like some teachers do it more than others, but a lot of teachers put a lot of their money back into their students, which I do think it's a significant thing that's happening, which I kind of have iffy feelings about it, because I do think it's great, whatever they're doing. They're really engaging students with that. But also in the back of my mind, I'm like, should they be paying for all this? Should it be their responsibility? That sort of thing. And then lastly, what I have is, while I was making this slides, I realized some of this information, even as like myself, I talk with a lot of people. It's hard to find some of this information. And so what I was thinking is maybe working with you, Mrs. Fluke, creating some sort of student newsletter. I know you have your newsletter, and so does our counselor and principal, but we don't have a student newsletter, which kind of just goes around everything happening in student life, which I think would be very beneficial to let all of our students know what is going on around the school, like I inform all of you. And that is all.
Very good. Thanks. Thank you. I think a student newsletter is an outstanding idea. We will certainly connect on that. Thank you for all of that, and we'll get back to you with your concerns next time. DeSalts, thank you for coming out. I will be reaching out. You had a lot of great points, so stay tuned. Okay. Next up, Elena Suggs and our student council and our Y. Elena, do you want to take this, or do you?
No, even just like, hi, Elena Suggs, Elementary Student Council Advisor. I've got 3 of my members here with me. Do you guys want to introduce yourselves?
I'm Abel Brown. I'm Lennox Kaufman. And I'm McKinley Kester.
So this year we have 13 members. We have 2 representatives from the 3rd and 4th grade classrooms, and then 6 overall representatives from the 5th grade classrooms. So those are our students, and this was when we were ringing the bell for Salvation Army. Their jobs are listed up there. So if you go to the next slide. And might be like you got to click that one. Yep. Okay, anybody want to talk about this one? You want to come up and talk? Yeah.
We had roller skating parties for all the grades, and everybody gets to help help them skate and everything. And everybody gets to skate, and all the grades do it.
Yeah, and so the our members volunteer to go to the K1 and the 2, 3, and 4, 5 to help out tying shoes and all the things that like adults don't want to bend over to do because they're older. Next slide. So on Day of Caring, we used our funds to purchase T-shirts for every student UPK through 5. So that's where some of our money that we fundraised for went. And last year, this is last year, but the kids really wanted to talk about it at Doggone Fun Day. We had a Kona ice truck come in and the kids all got a free AC. And it was pretty well received, right, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was free. Yeah, it was free. And then actually, teachers got to be involved too. So we're maybe gonna try and do it again this year. We also have something else fun coming up on Doggone Fun Day, right? Okay. Ooh, it's one of you guys.
Can I read it?
You want to read it? Yeah.
All UPK kids through 2nd grade found photos of Mr. Danzo around the school and put them on 100's chart.
There may still be 4 out there somewhere.
They might have got lost.
On your copier? Upstairs? Oh, okay, well, there's a few out there somewhere still. Anybody who wants to talk about this?
We ring the bell for the Salvation Army at Surefine, and we have donated about $100.
Yep, this year, and $100 this year, and actually $100 last year too. So I think there's a photo. And that's just in 40 minutes, really, after school?
Wow. Yep.
Okay. Here's what we want to do coming up. You want to talk about it? You guys are the one that want that.
I mean, we wanted to have a spring dance for 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders.
Yeah, and without parents, right?
Yes.
The family, the Bulldog Boogie with parents was, no, we need no parents. I said. So that's actually scheduled for April 4th, I don't know, 4th? I don't remember what day, so that day, Friday. And then our other fun thing.
Oh.
Well, Abel, do you want to talk or no? Yes.
We were hoping to do we were going to bring laser tag for the Doggone Fun Day.
Yeah, happened to get a flyer from a guy in Avon that brings in mobile laser tag and so we can have him for 4 hours for the grades to participate in. So, but that was fun. Thank you very much for letting us speak. Good job, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you, McKinley, Abel, and Lennox. Thank you very much for all that you do to support student council and to support your peers. Great job. Let's give them another round of applause. All right, next up, we have Kelly Palmer Sachatella, Elena Suggs, Penny Hensler, and Clarissa Hensler, and Erica. Oh, no. You're here to support. All right.
Anybody want to pick or? I don't care. Okay.
I gotta move my bag. No, I just want to put this here.
Here, Kelly, I'll give you this so you don't have
Put
to
that there
tell
behind the
me.
bed.
Do you know how to? Yeah. Okay.
Okay, for the controller. Ham jam all over. Here comes a wrecking ball. All right. So we all participated in the Smart Start grant. It is a mouthful. Basically it's through, and let me know if you can't hear me. I tend to project, so let me know. It's a partnership through Wayne Finger Lakes BoCES, and the University of Rochester. And we felt pretty unsure when we first did it, but then I think we're feeling pretty good about where we stand at Honeoye Central, just to let you know. So that was very nice. Yes. So basically it's a K-8 program and it looks and involves school districts, and we get together and we work with the computer strand and standards. And the lessons and units we design, then we actually create them and and they're used as reference for other teachers to use, and they're put in an online format, which is very helpful. All right, let's see. Look at that. I want one of these. All right. So, it started off in the summer. We attended Zoom meetings with the entire teacher cohort. So it wasn't just the 4 of us. It was all of the region, which was great. And during the school year, we attended Zoom meetings of the entire cohort, but we also have attended just with what we call our personalized learning community, or our PLC, which was great, focusing once again on those standards. March 13th is coming up, where we'll be doing presentations in a Zoom format with the entire cohort to go over what we did. Listed below, there's tons of stuff. Once again, I think we felt pretty good
We were
about
so
where
nervous
we
at the
were.
beginning, like, oh, and now when it's all come together, we're like, oh.
Yes.
we got this.
Especially in the summer, we felt like we were we
No
knew
clue.
some of the things.
Yeah.
That they were going over. So once again, kudos to
Yes.
Erica, thank you, and also all of the teachers that we work with. We feel pretty good about what we're doing within the standards. Okay. I'll hold
So,
this.
okay, so I, for my project, I did a technology unit with my 8th grade. And, so basically we talked about internet safety, and that was one of the standards, that is one of the standards. And so we, we practiced with the sentence builder, and we built up their confidence so that we could read real authentic resources about staying safe on the internet. We read something about passwords and what's a safe password. And they wrote down what they thought might be a safe password, and we saw how long it would take a hacker to figure it out. And all that was in French. And yeah, I think the neatest thing for me was just to hear them over and over again saying, I have to be careful not to click on suspicious messages. They had to say it tons to learn it in French. So I think by saying it all that, it kind of maybe sunk in a little bit more than it would have. So we did a lot of fun activities. We did dominoes and different things like that. So I thought it was a lot more fun. They really loved it, and I definitely will do this again.
Next slide.
And then, so we've been, is this mine?
That's you.
Okay, so we've been using the Indy cars, and these are little, okay.
Right here.
Okay, the kids have to like learn about programming because they have different tiles that tell them where to go.
Do you want the link? Do you want the video shown? That you have?
Oh,
together?
maybe. So for me, they had to answer things in French to earn the tiles. So it kind of motivated them. And they had to figure it out what color would make the car go where. I mean, it's pretty amazing that.
You
And
may get.
the celebratory.
Purple's awesome.
Yeah, if you're well behaved, you might get playtime.
So when they see the Indy cars, they get really excited. Like from my 8th grade right up to my 12th graders, they literally like, oh, we get the Indy cars today, and they love them, and very motivational, I think. Oh, and then we also did. Then we did Cubeto the robot. That's another technology tool we have. And my students had to answer questions in French, and to figure out where the different colored little, I can't think of what they're called, little colored tile chips that they put in, and it would make him go different directions. And so they had to figure out if he's going to get to the right spot. So I want to follow up where they write the story in French, and then they figure out where he's going. So, but we had a little, it was a lot of fun. Like they were spreading out, going the hallway, and working together. The cooperation and collaboration was pretty neat. So
It's great stuff.
yeah.
It's great stuff. Thank you. Thank you. That's awesome. Okay, so I'm working in grade 7 this year, and my first thought was we're going to use Google Sheets, and we're going to do some tracking of the spring league baseball teams, hence the Boston Red Sox here. And then we're going to try to persuade people with this statistical information to maybe follow a different team. Because we sent out a Google form just to get some information. Or I sent out the first Google form just to get some information and to share it with my students. What I found was that I had to go back before we could move forward, which happens a lot in teaching. students were not familiar with their Gmail accounts and how to really use the Gmail accounts and the function and the tools of the Gmail accounts. So we went back because in order to send out a Google form, we're going to attach it in a Gmail, right? Message and email people. So it turned into a Google Workplace unit extravaganza, I would say. So there's also some check-ins that I'm still sending out to students saying, hey, go to this Google Classroom, tell me what's going on. So there's a response. We used also the cars, and if you're not familiar with Edu protocols, they are awesome. So one of them is Fast and Curious, which is using and focusing on vocabulary within the Gmail. Next, here's the Google Forms. So here's some information that they started just playing with, just asking questions about. I love soccer. I am a past soccer player, but I'm too old to play now. But looking at this, I loved it. I loved that they added pictures, so we just explored. One of the things I found was that they were so scared of making mistakes, but guess what? There's an undo button. It's very kind, which is really nice. And you need to explore and you need to have fun. So they developed their Google Forms. We now are working with the Google Sheets. They are tracking spring training. And yes, they did not have to track the Boston Red Sox, but all of the children are tracking the Boston Red Sox. And they are doing great right now. They're ahead of the Yankees. So I just want to point that out to Mr. Bastian. Also, we also put that in our science class. We also are tracking just graphing using sheets. So we did, we were looking at the green tank versus the brown tank, distance versus time. So seeing how these things and seeing the vocabulary within them, what's a cell, what's a column, what's a row, and also looking at the functions of that. Couple things I really loved within this. There's what's going on in this graph from New York Times. I knew about what's going on in this picture, but I did not know about what's going on in this graph. So which was great for kids to see what the graph is, to experience a graph in different dimensions and different types of pictograms. So one of them was about and we actually talked about it within our group, was the Uncrustables and the amount of Uncrustables that professional football teams are eating. And one of the big beefs was that the Buffalo Bills were not included in that. So very, very interesting. But yes, it's been great. One of the things I also learned and am excited as a member of the technology committee, as secondary technology committee, the elementary technology committee looked at and said, we need a scope and sequence. We need to go back. We need to get that in place. So I think some of these pieces at the middle school level we'll be able to fly faster with and even further, which is very exciting.
We don't have to play the videos, but.
Okay.
I teach math, so with my high school, middle school algebra students, we did a kind of review of functions and solving equations with Indy. So the kids would get a tile if they got an answer correct, and then they would kind of play around. And there was a lot of math going on. You know, we can see the one kid writing, but yeah, they liked it a lot, and it was very fun. And it was a good way to practice math. So you can go next.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So like Kelly was talking about the Smart Start, going into the Smart Start, we felt really confident because of Erica, but we also did, like, we explored the where am I supposed to- yes, thank you. Computer standards last March for our conference day. So like my mom and I did a session on one of the branches, so it made me like feel more confident going into this. But my project was on Google Slides, like using it in algebra. We finished our exponential functions unit, and I wanted like them to create review tools for the whole class. So each group got a like general topic, and then I gave them like specific things they needed to include, and they collaboratively worked together on a shared slide deck. And then they presented it. And those are just like a few, like, obviously there's the kids, but like underneath the kids, a couple examples of how the kids displayed their learning. So one kid used Desmos, which was cool. Another group actually went into Canva and then put it into Google Slides, the one on the right, and they made up a word problem, which was amazing. And then just the colored fonts. So I really liked, you can go to the next slide. I'll show just a couple other examples. I really liked because we don't really do a lot of math in Google Slides. A lot of time we just do it on paper, but I do love the technology. The kids didn't ask how to put in an exponent or how to do this. Like I thought they would, like, you know, we don't really like type exponents, but like, as you can see up there, like even with like the different ways that groups went, like using the bananas as the exponent or the basketball. So that was fun. Yeah, that's it.
So I'm teaching 5th grade this year and I decided to use Google Sheets to help support my 5th grade math students while we're working on decimals and fractions and converting them. So they all started with a grid of 100 squares and they had to plan a design on these 100 squares. And then I taught them how to format Google Sheets so they could just type in a letter or whatever they wanted to represent it and it would pop up that color. So they could take their paper project and put it on the computer in Google Sheets. So here's some examples. So that's them working. First, you can see, you know, guy in the background is planning on the piece of paper. Some people are, you know, working at their computer. Yeah, next slide. So then this is like a project, and I know it's sort of hard to see, but they planned out their design, put it in there. They had to count the number of blocks they used for each color, and that became their fraction out of 100, and then they had to turn it into a decimal. So it was hard for a lot of them when it's like a single digit number over 100, you know, remembering that having a 0 in the 10th place. So it was a lot of good like teaching, but I saw kids that were like, can we do that again today? Can we do that again today? And I was like, this is something I don't think I learned until like 2 years ago, like how to do conditional formatting on a Google Sheet. And I bet if you like asked around, I don't know if you guys know how to conditional format on a Google Sheet. It's not really in, these kids now know how to do it. Can you go to the next one? So yeah, there's just some more work samples. Keep going. I got pictures coming in. They're, again, they could be as simple as they wanted, or like I had some more complex ones the next. So like she did a little tree, an apple tree. And so I put in a video to an extension activity. We don't have to watch it, but now some of the kids decided to work on 1,000 chart. And they are working on those fractions and decimals. So they're pretty proud of themselves. It's some of the kids that aren't necessarily leaders all the time are now going to be the ones that are experts in these things. So they can show their peers the cool things.
So now, you've done such a nice job, everyone.
Been a great audience.
You did. Thank you. We appreciate coming here tonight. We're going to hand out some fun tools for you to play with. Jim Helling, however, gets none, but that's okay.
Can't be trusted.
No. So these are the Spiro Indy cars. Wow.
Do you guys get these from BoCE's then? Can you, or, okay, that's what I was wondering. Yeah.
These ones are like.
Okay. So the key that we see projected will tell you what your car does. So the big thing is here, where's Erica? She's not on anybody. You need to start with a green.
Green, so you need a green star.
Oh, Erica's saying we already got to go to the floor. You want to think about anything and you're talking purple. If you have two things together, it's gonna gain speed. Then you're gonna have to stop. Okay, right? All right. Start with the green, red, and turtle sound. You know, it's all the reason not reading. Yeah, and it's.
This is your 1 minute warning.
1 minute warning. Yes.
What?
No, the new one. Yeah, no, yeah. The back.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah, they're awesome. They're super new.
The gyms, teamwork for the gyms.
Oh, man, great.
We have 30.
Yeah.
I just want to say, these guys have put in a lot of hours of work on this grant, and this was voluntary. I pushed this out to staff at the end of last year. And we didn't really know what this was going to be, or what it was gonna really require, and so they put in a ton of time. They have figured out how to make all of this stuff work. They've gotten it into their classroom, so like, these guys are really the leaders of a lot of this work, so.
Thank you, Elena, Clarissa, Penny, Kelly. Thank you, Erica. Great job. Oh. You know what I saw tonight? I saw engaging lessons, real world application, and the enthusiasm on your faces too when you were presenting. That is impacting your kids as well. Thank you. Great job. So fun.
Yeah. See you in October.
All right, and we're going to keep Penny right up there because she's going to talk about our French exchange.
Okay. Sorry, I was like, so, yeah, so I'm here to talk to you about the exchange. And I feel like I was just here, but it was really 2 years ago. But we started in 2004, and this year there's a little change that we're going to be partnering with HFL. Kind of ironic, Honeywell FLs, but closer. So I think it's better. We were with Gananda, and the last time they couldn't host, so then we did find families in Honeywell for 29 kids, which was not easy. But this time we'll be with HFL, and they'll be coming this fall, and it's going to be October 4th through the 17th, which that date's got to change to 17th. But so they're going to be staying with families and learning what life is like here. So the last time we traveled, which Kelly was with me, yeah, so we just went a year ago, was it April, right? Yeah, so so what we'd like to do is we're going to host in this fall, and then we would go stay with the kids would stay with the same students they're hosting in March. So the trip includes basically everything. There might be a couple meals. We're not sure how long we'd be in Paris. Depends on the price, because I want to keep it at 2,000 like it was last time. So whatever, we can always stay with the families longer because that's free. So I just felt like last time our time in Paris was a little rushed. So if we can kind of squeak out another day in there, we're going to do more things by ourselves. We're going to organize the walk around Paris instead of having a tour bus. So we're trying to save money that way. Yeah, it includes all meals. It includes hotel. It includes all transportation. So we'll take a chartered bus from Honeywell to somewhere in Canada. We usually go out to Toronto or Montreal because we can take a direct flight and it's the cheapest way. And yeah, everything there and back. So so right now it's planned for the March-April 2026 break, and the estimated price is 2,000. So I would do everything I can to keep it that way. And as I said, we cut back on Paris if we need to make it stay that price. So the traveler's insurance, we would like to get the cancel for no reason, so that for any reason the family comes up, especially when last time we had the insurance for COVID, which was very good. The families, I think, got 80% of their money back. Without that, they would have probably lost most of it. But so it is $248. So that would be due in the beginning, which is a little bit of a chunk, but because So last year we paid about 148, but we were very limited in the days. So if we paid the extra 100, we can get an extra 3 days in France. So that's not included in the price, and neither is the passport. So the students have to be good ambassadors, and if they receive ISS or OSS, then their administration will decide if they can still go to France. The code of conduct is always followed, so kids have to follow the rules as if they were in school. And we'll have a luggage check the day before, or the morning of, depending on what time we leave, so. And the traveler's insurance covers 100% of the cost of trip due to sickness, like if they got COVID or had a broken bone. 50% of the cost of the trip due to reasons not covered, like they just changed their mind. And in addition to that, it covers medical expenses. And if there's an emergency here, and if their luggage is lost, and if they need a emergency medical evacuation, which hopefully wouldn't need that. So the accessibility, so we do a lot of fundraising. We've already been doing fundraising this year. I've had several students already. I think a couple of them have like $300 in their accounts. So anything I can do, I always do any fundraising I can. So the trip that we took last time was $1950. And if we didn't do the exchange, so this year HFL is going to Europe, and it's costing $4,500. So that's the difference of the price, because we don't have to pay for hotels except for in Paris. The family puts up the students and provides all meals. So it is a lot of money to ask for families, but at the same time, it's like a huge savings if they were to go in another way. So we would leave school on Wednesday right before vacation, and we would take the charter bus to Toronto or Montreal, whatever has the best price. I personally prefer Toronto, it's a little bit closer, but whatever, I'm saving money. So then we would take a charter bus to Rennes. When the pictures there, that is when Maggie DeWitt, that was her family waiting for her. And that's this picture of the school, the brown building there. And then that was, if you look over to the bottom right, that's all the families waiting for us when we got there. So it's kind of nice when you travel and you have somebody waiting for you, you know. That's And
great.
for a lot of them, it was being reunited with the person they had hosted before. So it was it's kind of really magical. So we would visit Rennes. Rennes is a beautiful city in Brittany, which is, I will picture it there, it's the arm of France. And it's a very beautiful city. It's the sister city of Rochester. And so it's about comparable size. And we'll eat a lot of galettes, which are on the bottom right. So they're crepes that are made with buckwheat flour. So, and then we'll be going to see the Mont Saint Michel and medieval castle, Chateau de Fougères. Kids will have a lot of time to, just kind of discover things. That was some of their favorite things. And the beach in Normandy, always go to the beach in Normandy. We'll go to the Omaha Beach and the Pointe du Hoc. And we'll have a tour of there's a museum there, and then Arromanches, yep. It's kind of all it's all related. So Arromanches, which is not, that we didn't do last time, but maybe this time we'll be able to do that. And Nantes is a possibility. I don't know, they plan our stay there, but that's something we've done with that giant mechanical elephant. So just a beautiful city, not far from Rennes. I think it's about an hour from Rennes. And then there's always dancing. Last time there were strikes, so we couldn't, it was supposed to be, the teachers striking, they're allowed to strike there. No, I'm not saying I want to strike, but I say, no, they French people strike whenever, they think, something's not right. So they had strikes, we couldn't have it, but hoping next time we can have like a dance thing, and they have traditional dancing. So just a great time for families and students to kind of bond. And one of their favorite days is Saint-Malo. So that's an island. And what's the movie that some of you may have seen? The light they cannot see. So it's based there. So World War II movie, but so it's an island. It has I can't think of the word, the ramparts around it's a walled city, so they can walk all around it, and just a very nice place to visit. And when the tide is low, you can walk out to the islands. just, I think it's one of the favorite days. Oh, and the top right is the Pirate House. So we visit because it was famous for pirates or Corsairs. So visit the Pirate House and I don't know, I think it's one, and get some ice cream. Yeah, okay, yeah. So it's it's really one of their favorite days. So great. And then it'll be time to leave. And this were the kids from last year. And then we took the bullet train last year from Rennes to Paris because it's only like an hour and a half compared to like over 4 hours to take the bus. And so all the families met at the train station in the morning. So the only thing bad about that was that, or maybe it was good, but it was a quick goodbye because literally we gotta get in the train, is taking off. But it was sad. There was a lot of tears. Yeah, I think even you were teared up. So it's just, you really bond. I know it seems crazy to think, but in a week you really bond with the people. So, and the kids, I know they still keep in touch. So. Yeah. No.
They're close.
Wow, no, that's crazy. Yeah. And then we go to Paris. So, and depending on how long we're there, depends on what we do, but I'm gonna do all we can. So, like everything we can. And I'm so excited to see Notre Dame. Like that's is a definite. Taking them in Notre Dame. The Eiffel Tower, we couldn't go up last time because I guess since after COVID, the lines are very long and even if you make reservations, but we did go. Yeah, and the Olympics were there, so there's all and then, just, it was and it was 80 degrees Olympics. I know, but the Arc of Triumph, you go to the top of that, definitely. That's very easily done. So, yeah, in the Louvre, yep. So, and then we'll go to the hotel and then we'll, we leave the next day. So, so we have some quotes from kids, which I won't read them all to you, but they really did, it was moving, and I think they all gladly wrote these. I don't know how many there are, but there's many. There might be like 8 or 9 of them. Yeah. Yeah. Cute girl, so I think a lot of the times, eating lunch with my friends, French food, I think living with the family just makes it more, just a real experience, culturally, speaking the language and, bonding and friendships forever. So. Yeah, there's a lot. They all wanted to leave the comments. So, yeah. So this year right now it's Carter Bunce and myself would be chaperone. I would think around between 15 and 20 kids, I think. The last time we had, believe it or not, 29 from Hanoi who went. And that was with the trip to Costa Rica too, I think was pretty big too. So we had both trips for a school our size, which is pretty amazing. So, yeah, did you have any questions?
Thank you, Penny. Beautiful pictures. And thank you for doing this year after year. What a great experience for our kids. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's give Penny a round. Okay, I have just a few quick updates. I talked a little bit already about my time in Albany, 2.5 days. Had a lot of professional learning. I'm excited to bring back to the team. Talked a little bit about updates coming down from the state, but it's also an opportunity to collaborate as superintendents around the region. So I'm thankful for that opportunity. Also wanted to talk about a letter has been written on behalf of our region in collaboration with Senator Helming about expressing our interest in designated funding for our SRO. So if that goes through, that would be another positive impact on our budget. So stay tuned for that. Regarding DEI, we will continue to meet as a committee to promote equitable educational opportunities for all of our students here at HCS. Our team is currently working on identifying all of the things we're already doing under that umbrella to provide equal and access opportunity for everything, and what other ways can we support our students, remove financial barriers, and level the playing field for all. So we will be meeting again soon if those of you who are on that committee. And lastly, EV buses. So you'll notice there wasn't anything in our budget on EV buses that has been put on hold at this time. I will update you as more information is provided, but right now we are not in the market to be purchasing EV buses, thankfully. Okay. And that's it from me. Thank you. I'm turning it back over to Tori.
So it's after 8 o'clock. Isabella, would you like to leave? You may. No? Okay, I just wanted to make sure, because it's after 8 o'clock, so. Okay. All right. So then we will move on to consent agenda. I will need a motion to approve the minutes for the February 12th, 2025 and February 26th, 25, as well as the CSE minutes. Can I get a motion on those?
I'll move.
Second,
I'll second.
is there any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that's carried. Moving on to treasurer report. I need a motion to approve the January 2025 treasurer report. Get a motion?
I'll move.
Second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that's carried. Personnel. We need a motion to rescind on the recommendation from Superintendent Fluke, to rescind the following appointment. The below was originally approved at the July 10th, 2024 Board of Education meeting. Would have been a 24-25 coach for JV lacrosse, effective March 5th, 2025. Can I get a motion?
I'll move.
A second?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that's carried. Moving on to appointments. I would need a motion to approve, upon the recommendation from Superintendent Fluke to approve the following appointments. We would have a 24-25 coach for modified A baseball. And then we would have 25-26 coaches for varsity boys cross country, varsity girls cross country, modified cross country, varsity golf, JV golf, varsity boys soccer, modified girls soccer, JV girls soccer, modified volleyball, JV volleyball, and then 2 unpaid assistants, one, both for varsity girls soccer.
I would like to make a motion to take them separate.
That's fine. Is everybody good with that? Do we need a motion on that or just take them separate? All right,
Can we do 24-25 coach, the first one, Logan Thomas?
sure. We'll do groups.
All right.
then.
Can we do groups?
All right, so could I get a motion to approve the 24-25 coach for the modified A baseball team, please? A second? Okay, all in favor?
I would like to,
Oh,
there's too many people
Hold on. She can't talk because her
Okay,
thing's not.
now I can talk. I want to approve, pending his coaching certification, because he doesn't have that yet.
Okay, so we're looking to a motion to approve pending certification. Okay, so we'll approve them and then we just got to make sure that the certification gets checked in on. Okay. So that's the motion and we have a second on that. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that's carried. Then we have the 25-26 coaches and the unpaid assistants. Can I get a motion on those, please?
I'll move.
And a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I have a question. This is
Sure.
not a comprehensive list, so do we know when the rest of the coaches will be added to this?
I would assume it would be as we fill the spots.
Anyone not there is because we haven't hired, we don't have a recommendation yet.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that's carried. Let's see, new business, old business. We have some invoices. So I would be looking for a motion to approve Capital Region BOCES number 272-25F and SWBR Odd AHU Emergency Project number 002419-802. And can I get a motion on that?
I'll move.
And a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, that's carried. Moving on to the bond resolution. I need a motion to approve the bond resolution dated March 5th, 2025. I am not going to read all of that to you because I know that you've already all read it. Could I please get a motion for that, please?
I'll move.
A second?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that's carried. Moving on to the 25-26 instructional calendar. I need a motion to approve the Honeoye Central School calendar for 2025-26.
I'll move.
Can I get a second? Is there any discussion?
I just have some questions.
Sure.
It says pupils, total number of days, 182. I thought that the state required only 180 days. Two, is it? 180?
180 days. No, it's 180 days. The
Okay.
requirement from the state is 180.
Okay, but there's 2 snow days built
Yeah,
into
we
it?
all-
Yes. yeah.
Okay, and the comment is also they're still getting 2 weeks at Christmas for, which is really nice. And also the spring break comes really early next year. It starts in March, I think, what, the 30th or something like that? That's all. I mean,
Yes.
you know, like those are just comments.
Anybody have anything else? All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, that is carried. Then we have a donation. So I'm looking for a motion to accept from the recommendation from Superintendent Fluke to accept the donation listed below of $73.77 to cover the final total cost related to the varsity basketball trip to Cleveland. And this was donated by the Honeoye Boys Basketball Incorporated. Can I get a motion? Jermaine? Oh, I was just making sure.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that's carried. Moving on to substitute rate. I'm looking for a motion to approve the recommendation from Superintendent Fluke for substitute pay rate of $21.57 per hour effective March 5th, 2025 for the substitute after-school library monitor. Can I get a motion?
I'll move.
And a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion here? All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, that is also carried. Moving on to capital improvement project. We have an invoice, SWBR CIP 0024084005. I need a motion to approve that.
I'll move.
And a second? Any discussion?
Oh, I have a quick question.
Sure.
So, are we moving to? So is the project currently on track to the plan that we have? All right, that's all. Thank you.
Yes, so the next thing we have to do is the 28th, we make the submission to the State Education Department. And then it kind of goes, yeah. But there's other things going on in the background with 6 months in between, so. Okay, so any other questions or comments there? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
And any opposed? That is carried. Comments from the Board of Education? Does anybody have anything? No? Oh, I do. I just wanted to say thank you to my fellow board members for participating in the workshop on February 26th and helping come together with some thoughts about setting up a retreat with area districts. I'm excited about that. I do have the letter in process to other board presidents. Once I get that done, I will send it out to each of you so that you can sign off on it. And then we'll get started, and that way we'll know if there's no interest, we won't continue. And if there is, we will get this done. So thank you again for all your help. Anybody have anything else? Okay. And then lastly, there's information for the warrants. And then do we need to go into executive session?
We do for the employment of a future or to talk about the employment of a future employee. Potential employee.
Okay, to talk about the potential employment of, okay, got it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of words there. Okay, could I get a motion, please?
I'll move.
And a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that's carried, and we are now in executive session.
Hello?
Yeah.
Okay. In our financial budget meeting, okay, under Board of Education, okay, our budget was approximately $1,600 more than last year. And I said, if we're going to be doing this budgeting process, I'd like the board to lead the way, okay? And so I said that I think the Board of Education's budget should be cut for next year, okay? To show that we can also exhibit financial responsibility, okay? And so the budget or the sheet that you saw tonight, okay, our budget was what, a $600 or something like that, less than last year, instead of $2,000 more. But that means that we probably won't be able to afford as many seminars or things like that. But I just thought it was good for the board to show fiscal responsibility as well as the district as a whole. How does everybody feel about that?
Well, that's why I asked about super eval. How much does that cost? Because if we could figure out a way, look at the kids tonight presenting about the teachers with that grant. Like if they can figure out how to do Google Docs and formulas, there must be a way for us to make our own evaluation, and with enough formulas put in place, it should calculate itself and everything. So if we could figure out a way to do that on our own or with help from one of the classrooms or a teacher, we could probably cut super eval.
Okay. That's one more thing. But then we need to find out how much super eval costs us. Oh, okay. Okay, but I think that it's important for the board to show the district that we can show some fiscal restraint. And so that's why I suggested that.
All right. Anybody have anything else? All right, could I get a motion to adjourn, please? I got Megan as a second, sorry. And 9:05, any discussion?